Welcome to RGN, the regular guy news, the least pretentious name in news. I am your host. I am your anchor. I am a regular guy, Dan Black, baby. Come on. Welcome to RGN, the show with the ever-changing intro. I am Dan Black, as I said before, and this is a podcast where we dissect news to an unhealthy degree. Have I ever said that? I don't think I have. But this is the least pretentious name in news. We watch cable news a bunch, and broadcast, regular broadcast news, all of it. And but we're regular. We're not. We don't pretend to be pseudo intellectuals. We got an education. I might be smarter than you. There's a good chance I'm smarter than you. No offense. But ultimately, what are these guys talking about? And we're reading in between the lines. What are they not saying? I got a lot to say today. We're coming off election week. Elections are now a week long, many are saying. And we have a new president-elect, Joseph Q. Biden Jr. I think it's an R is his middle name, but I say Q. But yeah, we have a ton to say. We had some great topics today. We're going to hit the mailbag today. But before we do, let me introduce, as always, she's out in the field, the only RGN correspondent, Miss Erin Finnerty. Erin, are you in the field?
And I'm here. I'm here today.
Wow.
I'm here in my new home of sunny Los Angeles, California. I've relocated permanently.
Okay, Erin. I mean,
I'll be here through the Biden administration, at least. Yeah.
You're not going to be leaving that. Okay, through the Biden administration. We'll take that. We will accept that. Okay. Well, Erin, welcome to RGN. How are you feeling?
Thank you for having me.
Compared to, as everyone knows, Erin worked the polls last week. I had this thought. This is a little vulgar, but I had this thought of I don't think in the 90s you could say you worked the polls to someone without an obligatory hand gesture, right? Without being like, yeah, you worked the polls. You can't. But now that's a nice thing. That's a liberating thing about 2020. You could say work the polls and just be like, I can avoid that joke.
Well, you work the polls or the polls. Or the polls with a capital P, depending on who you talk to. So,
well, Donald Trump spells it polls, like a fishing pole.
Yeah, the polls.
Yeah. Actually, he who shall not be named. I guess after January 20, which, by the way, my birthday is January 21st. So what a beautiful
gift.
My birthday next year in 2021 will be the first full day of a Biden-Harris administration.
The first day of the rest of your life, Dan. Beautiful.
And we'll talk about what their plans are today. We got a bunch of stuff I'll dive a little bit into what Trump's up to. Okay. Today we got a lot to talk about. I got Erin, but we're gonna hit the mailbag. But before we do, I actually want to kick this off. I want to kick this off with a little story. Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Because I think we've been so keyed into this election and whatnot, we could use a little relief. Okay?
The story corner.
That's right. Welcome to Story Corner, everybody. Let's lock it in. Story
Anecdote
Corner.
Avenue.
Okay. So I just think this is funny. So, okay. So, and I think it ties into current events because we're in this crazy COVID era, right? So I've decided to reinstate my CPA exam,
Whoa.
It's my CPA license. I have a little bit of time, and it's really interesting time because right now I had my first audition today in 10 months.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah. So you're things are coming back. I'm actually up for another project that would begin in January that is in entertainment. But I'm like, you know what? While we're in this weird time here, why don't I take some time? And so I've applied to some interesting positions with my tax license and stuff. Okay, point is I have to take these tests, okay? I don't think I told you this story yet, did I?
I don't think I heard this story.
Okay.
This is new to me.
I'm taking tests. Now, all tests are remote now, So, all right, this one test I took, it's so strict, okay? So, in this exam I took, it's a tax exam, and you have to here's all the steps you have to take, okay? You have to literally take your license, put it up to the camera, and take a picture of it. You have to take the camera, it starts taking video, and film your whole area to show that you have no Like you have no cheat sheets or anything.
Right, like pinned on the wall beside you or anything. Yeah.
Right. Their video is going the whole time and your mic's going the whole time. You're not allowed to speak. So like maybe if you're speaking, you're feeding to an off-camera phone and they give you answers or something. So you're not allowed to do that, which is actually funny. During the test, a couple times I did go like, oh fuck, you know.
You can't even what you can't talk to yourself. You can't read questions out loud or
no. Which, by the way, is a huge tool I use. Okay.
Yeah.
You have like scrap paper. You have to show your scrap paper up to the camera, and then like at the end of the test, it counts as a question on the exam. It's like showing it and destroying it properly on camera.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like extreme. It's very extreme.
Okay.
That is. And here's the other thing with this test. Okay, so I go to take this test, and I'm like, all right, I did all this stuff, whatever. Here's what I did not factor in. You're not allowed to leave the monitor. You can't be out of sight of the camera at any time, including using the restroom.
Oh, Dan. Oh, Dan.
Erin, you know me.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to say one key trait about me, what would it be?
Well, it's a two-parter. One key trait is Dan, as listeners know, is a bev boy. He drinks a lot of beverages. He's a certified bev boy. Oh, he's opening one now. Therefore, ergo, he goes pee a lot.
I pee all
at
the
least
fucking
once per podcast.
Right. We take most pods we take. I take a pee break and I edit it out. You know, I can't even go a pod without it. Okay, I drink a ton of water right now. If you're looking at the video, this is a 30-ounce thing of water. Then I have a 12-ounce thing of water over here. I have a LaCroix and I have a pop of oat milk right over here. all oat milk latte.
And that's all going to be consumed during the recording of a podcast.
This test is 3 hours long.
3 hours? That's three times the length.
Sorry, it's 2.5 hours long.
That's like double the length of our average podcast.
Erin?
Holy shit.
So I'm taking this test. And they're like, pee now. If you need to use the restroom, do now. So I still do. And I go, this is still going to be a problem. I went to the gym this morning. So I drink. That means I drink more water than the average person, already that early in the day, plus coffee.
You're saturated by that point.
So I sit and I'm taking the test and I'm like, all right, this is going well. Then I get to like an hour 15 in and I feel it,
Oh no.
I'm like, what do? I'm holding it in. Then I get to I'm like, I don't know what to do here. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to pee in my pants. I'm like, I'm just going to pee. I go, what else? What is the other option? Okay, so I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Who cares? I'll just pee in my pants. But then I realized I'm sitting on a collectible WrestleMania chair.
Oh, no. Yeah, you can't do that.
So I'm not even sitting on a chair. Like I'm sitting on a chair that I don't even want to pee on, regardless of the fact that my integrity. It's just like the Zoom where you can see your video back. So I'd be looking at myself knowing that they're recording me pissing in my pants.
Piss your pants in your own home. Oh my God.
Like, first off, they didn't say anything. Like, do you have bladder issues? Nothing. Like, should there be some kind of, I don't know. I understand that I'm an extreme case because I drink so many bevies, and I would have planned ahead of this.
Yeah. Had you known.
Had I known, but I did not. So what I get to, so here's what I do. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to pee in my pants. This is insane. I get to the end of the test, and I'm like, all right, I'm done. But then I'm like, shit, do I want to review? You can mark questions for review. You know? And I'm like, oh, do I want to do that? So here's what my plan was. I peed a little bit in my pants. And a little bit
You let a little out?
I peed just enough.
A little bit?
Where I felt I could know enough where I could make it through.
Oh,
where
Jesus.
I could make it through to the end of, I could review the questions.
You had to just open the spout a little bit, relieve some pressure.
And then, so I review. But so then I reviewed a couple questions, and then I was like, this is it. I got to just submit this exam.
Yeah.
I got to go pay.
Okay.
And then when I finished, I'm like, all right, great. I'm glad I finished. All right,
Uh-huh.
but then I had to go through the step of destroying the scrap paper, which is another.
Oh
It's another.
God. You were just like
Yeah. Anyway, so
Woo. So
I
Dan peed his pants while he took the tax exam.
just a little bit though, just a
Did
little
any
bit.
damage come to your
No,
chair or just your crotch area?
no, just a little bit in the crotch. Just had to quickly, shower, clean
A
up.
little emission, yeah, no problem.
Listen. Okay, listen. This, this is, this is. I don't listen. This is. I guess it's an embarrassing story. But I'm not embarrassed at all.
No.
Maybe I should be, but isn't
Well, you
that
did it
their?
on
It's kind
purpose.
of their fault, though, right?
Mm-hmm. I guess I have a question. Like, did you have? I was gonna say maybe you could have just taken it out and just peed into a receptacle, like if you had a trash can nearby, or
Okay,
like
but
would they have
here's the.
seen it on cam?
By the way, this is a news podcast, just to let you guys
Yeah.
know. Okay, here's the thing, Erin. The other thing, though, is that like if I started doing all that, I think it would look suspicious in the video, right? Like part of the
Right.
video
Like,
is that like they literally say in the thing like you have to keep your eyes on the camera most of the time. So if your eyes are like off the camera a bunch of times, I don't know how closely they check this, by the way, but I'm just going
yeah,
off the
yeah,
rules
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't want to take this test again, So
Right.
like I felt like if I'm like reaching for a can, first off, I didn't have anything. I would have to pee into my water supply. That's what I'd have to do. Maybe that is what I should
Mm,
have done. Maybe what I should have done was I
I
should
thought
have
maybe if you had like a
uncapped
glass
this.
or a trash can nearby.
Yeah, maybe I should have opened this and then peed into this.
That's what I was thinking. One time I went to the movies uh, with someone and they
Right
did that with a vitamin water bottle because
in
they
the
didn't want to
movies.
miss the movie. Yeah.
Wow, that's a
Don't
wild
remember what
move.
it was. Probably wasn't anything good, but I've
Well,
seen it happen.
anyway, so since this election, I've peed my pants. So we all know
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden's not the only guy peeing his pants. And
Ah,
hey, but yeah, you know what? Honestly, the reason I saw that story was just kind of like it's one of my first experiences post-election. And you're
mm-hmm.
like, all right, like this is comedy. This is my first example of us getting back to just normal comedy.
There you go.
I don't
Pee
know.
in your pants on
But enjoy the
purpose.
story of me peeing in my pants.
And
Great.
that is an RGN exclusive tale.
Okay. Um, let's get into the. Let's move on into the. Many would say into the mailbag. What do you say,
Oh, the RGN mailbag? I'd love to open it up.
Erin? Let's go into the mailbag. By the way, part of what makes us the least pretentious name in news is that we hear from you on the regular guy news. At gmail.com. Send us an email and interact with us. Erin, do we have anything in the mailbag this week?
Dan, we do. We have 2 post-election items in the RGN mailbag. So we're at our capacity.
Oh, yeah. We have a very small server. You
Mm-hmm.
guys know
Very
that.
small. Yeah, it's Gmail, but you can only get 2 at a time. It's
We
crazy.
don't even have a Patreon yet. Like, I mean, the server
What do you
is
want?
small. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
Right.
we have
What
2
do you
items.
want? What does everybody want from me? It's ridiculous.
I want more oat milk lattes for everyone.
I can provide.
All right. So we have 2 items. I thought we could tag team it this week. I'll take one and you take the other.
Sounds great.
All right. So first up, we have return mailbag writer Pat F.
Okay.
Okay.
Pat F.
Pat F.
A Michigan voter.
He is a Michigan voter, and he may or may not be my dad.
Oh, wow. So we can't lock that in?
Jury's still out. Yeah, can't lock it.
Okay, that's not locked in. I have to rescind that. I have to rescind
Okay,
that
rescind
lock
it.
in.
Can
We're
you
not
do that?
sure if he's your dad or not.
I'm not sure if this is my dad or not, but there's a chance. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Pat F writes, "Oh, the subject is flushing the toilet." Okay.
Oh, okay.
Something you didn't have to do when you peed yourself
No,
while you're taking
not.
the exam.
No. You can't flush a desk chair. Or a WrestleMania collective chair for that matter.
No. All right. Hello, Dan and Erin. It was great to hear you both dripping with happiness on your post-Biden win podcast. It's just a good thing for us all. Let's hope Joe works swiftly and without regard for conservative interests because they always stab you in the back. Always. And no Republicans in the cabinet, please. They are all backstabbers. People have to stop giving the benefit of the doubt to Republicans. They are and will always be the enemy of the working class. Thank you for your program, and know that without any progressive radio to counter the lies of the conservative hate talk shows, you guys are the front line in speaking the truth and common sense. Drinking
Yeah.
a beer for Biden, Pat F. from Blue, Michigan.
Ooh, a little beer for B. B for B.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you,
Thanks, Pat.
I think we recorded the podcast before. Thank you, Pat F. Beautiful. I got something to say to you as well about you having Republicans in the candidate. In the cabinet. I do have a thought about that. We recorded before Biden gave his speech, I believe, right?
Yeah, we recorded that afternoon.
Once they called it, yeah, and then he spoke at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I just want to say, as a man who went to University of Delaware, to see he was at the waterfront in Wilmington, Delaware, and there was all these kids wearing University of Delaware sweatshirts. Like the one that just says Delaware is the University of Delaware sweatshirt.
Yeah.
They should maybe fix that. Their branding, it just says Delaware.
I went to Michigan. You just get the Michigan sweatshirt. Yeah.
Michigan sweatshirts are just Michigan. Yeah. So that was just wild to me because it's so funny. Like, I feel like Delaware, even going back to that fucking Wayne's World joke, has hey, I'm in Delaware. What do you do in Delaware? It's always felt like Delaware is this like completely irrelevant state.
Oh, Nowhere. Yeah, that's what we used to call it.
Right. And also, it's like they don't have any sports teams. If you're a Delaware fan, if you're a Delaware like native, you're likely a Philly, yeah, sports
Eagles
person, right? You're like an Eagles person. And so it's kind of just, or Baltimore randomly, you might be like a Baltimore person. You're just like between those two cities.
Yeah.
So it is this weird. It is weird for like Delaware to like matter in this way.
I know.
For the first time ever, it's an odd feeling. Like I got so many messages from people.
Totally.
Being like a big day for Delaware, and like I said on the last podcast, I think we should make University of Delaware Ivy League school.
Make it an Ivy League?
Yeah, I think we should swap UPenn for University of Delaware. UPenn had Donald Trump go there. Okay.
Yeah. Well, when we get around to there's some UPenn. Oh, don't forget, Biden worked at Penn when I was there.
All right. Well, that's all right. That counteracts it a little bit. But okay, my response is, Pat F., I got to tell you, I couldn't agree more with you. And I hate to sound like some partisan hack or whatever. I'm really not. Like I said, after this election, I'm going to be keeping an eye. That's part of part of the reason I started this podcast is I don't want to just be absorbing this information that I'm fed so that I'm just a sheep. I'm trying to draw my own educated conclusions, and by educated I mean 2 articles deep of education.
Max.
2 articles deep, Max. I mean, come on, how much time can I give to this? I got my life to live. I got wrestling to watch. But I would say is that everything I know since we started the podcast till now, and from what I've known before, is I completely agree. Like, there's no reason to put a Republican in your cabinet because it doesn't seem to do anything. Like that seems to be the old times. From everything I've seen from this Amy Coney Barrett situation, the Republicans do not have any shame at all. And I think that just might be where our government's at. And you could say 2 wrongs don't make a right. But like at this point, if you're a Democrat, you're going to take so much criticism for giving into the Republicans in any capacity. They're not looking. They're not looking to work together at all.
Clearly.
I mean, Mitch McConnell, when Obama got into office, said, "Oh, my goal is to make him a one-term president and not work with him," and he held things up. And we're back in that same exact spot where McConnell, good chance will be still the Senate Majority Leader and still block down everything Biden's does just to make his presidency look ineffective.
Right.
So, I don't think there's anything to gain there in this modern part, unless there's some kind of big sit down where everyone's like, "Hey, we need to work together." Like, there has to be like an actual moment where these 2 parties are like, "Hey, we both are going to actually play by these same rules. We're both going to abide by these same precedents," because they need to restore a trust in each other that does not seem to exist. And the Democrats would just be fools to go along with that.
Absolutely. It would not. I mean, yeah, you just can't take their word for it.
That being said, John Kasich and Mitt Romney, those are 2 Republicans who did a lot of, who did a lot right You know,
Well, they showed some sense,
yeah.
despite their allegiance to their party.
So I might be open to that, but I'd be
Nah.
interested to see how you guys feel about that. Anyway, Pat F, good point. I agree. And thank
Thanks,
you for
Pat.
enjoying our. So thank you for believing we're on the front lines. Many would say we are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next mailbag item comes from Sean. What's it to you? A man we hear from constantly.
Sean.
Um, guy knows the shit. Very passionate. I appreciate
Yeah.
the passion. Um, okay, he says. Okay, this is a response to our celebration of Biden winning, but I don't know that calling it that. If you haven't heard our last episode, I wouldn't call it exactly that. Yes, we are excited for that, but we break it down. There's more to it than that. But Sean says America didn't not reject Trumpism. Biden only got 74 million votes. 70 million people voted for Trump. America just very politely asked Trumpism to leave. Okay? A Dem
Mm-hmm.
win without the Senate means essentially no progress forward. It means no worse things can happen, but McConnell will obstruct and prevent anything good from happening. This is the problem with making this election about Trump instead of making it about making people's lives better. Dems lose seats in the House and fail to gain ground in the Senate and did terrible in most down ballot races. Bernie was the candidate that talked mostly about improving the material conditions of Americans, while Biden talks about platitudes like restoring the soul of America. That's a losing proposition for many people in the country who never knew this fairy tale version of America that predominantly white, middle, upper class liberals love to talk about. That's why more than half the country still didn't vote, and why the Dems lost down ballot races. I get the impulse to celebrate, but man, this is nothing. America has shown what it is. We got to throw out these platitudes and focus on the material conditions people face. Honestly, the Dems doing this badly is a disgrace. None of the pollsters predicted they would do so terribly. A Biden presidency that only seeks to go back to normal will give us an even worse Trump in 2024. Tom Cotton, Ted Cruz, hell, maybe even Tucker Carlson. Who knows? But we didn't win. We can't go back to sleep. Okay, great email, by the way. Pretty concise, and
Mm-hmm.
clearly you're a smart guy, Sean. I like hearing from you. And so one thing I'll say to this first off is I've already been texting with my buddy Zan Khan, who came on the podcast
Mm-hmm.
2 eps ago. My buddy, self-described socialist, immigrant attorney in New York City, and he's already on his Facebook feed, already posting stuff about what Biden's doing wrong already. He's already down Biden's throat. And so I intend to have him, I've already spoke to him. He's going to be coming on and talking to me and us about things he sees wrong with the Biden administration that make them, like he says, the Democratic Party in his mind still operate within right-wing frames, is what he's saying. And I want him to
Interesting.
see, what does that exactly mean? Because that's something, as an RGN, as a regular guy, I'm like always like, well, these guys seem better. And he's like, yeah, they are better, but ultimately they are the same, which is your point. So I intend to have Zan on more because he just frankly knows fucking more than me.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe I'm more optimistic than he is, and maybe that's bad for the pod. I don't know. The point is, I'm not coming down here pretend. What always turns me off, and again, another reason why I started this podcast. Not that I have to keep justifying why I started a podcast, okay, but is because I think I find it mind-boggling how many people are so positive they have the right answer about this stuff. You
Right.
know. Um, Here's what I will say. You said Bernie was the candidate. Talk mostly about proving the material conditions of America. Blah blah blah. Man, I don't think you could convince me that Bernie would have. I think Bernie would have lost this election. I,
Yeah.
I
I think
think
this time around he would have lost. But 4 years ago, I think he would have had a better shot maybe than Hillary. People
that
would
I
have.
buy. That I
Yeah.
totally buy. But I do think socialism is a triggering word for people in this country. I know this from not just seeing news, and I know that from firsthand conversations with people
Yeah.
that like they they're now the word socialism, like Zan had said on the podcast 2 weeks ago, is like Bernie has like rehabilitated it
Mm-hmm.
definitely and faster than most people have thought. But that's why I think the down ballot races didn't do well, is because people were like, we still want to keep these Dems in check,
Right.
And so that doesn't mean that I'm saying you're wrong about restoring the soul of America. It sounds the same thing as like thoughts and prayers to me. I agree. It is like it is. I'm a man. I say of zero spirituality. So when you start throwing around terms like soul, I start going like, all right, I hear horse shit. I just hear like, oh, I hear poetry. You know.
Yeah.
Now that being said, like Biden had a quote from the Bible that I thought was really good the other day, where I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm like, I get it. There's definitely some nuggets in the Bible."
You don't say.
Because he's like, "There's a time to reap, time to sow, and a time to heal." And you're
Yeah.
like, "Now it's time to heal." You're like, "Oh, okay, that's
Right,
cool. I
right.
like
I
that."
mean, hey, it's the best-selling book of all time, you know. There's got to be something in there.
um, but this is where I feel like I had a brief text exchange with Zan, and I feel like you and him sound very similar, and I think that first off, there is no way to avoid this election being about Trump. So it's kind of a non-starter to be like, that's the problem with this. It's like, well, no, the problem is Trump. Like people
Problem is that he
despise him
was elected 4 years ago.
right. And his behavior, you can't even think of him like a politician. So it had to be a vote against him. So honestly, his plan's weird. He almost put an extra added layer of armor to the Republican Party, because he was like, this is not what Republicans are, so you're voting against that. But then this weird way, people still identify as Republicans because they didn't think Trump was a true one. They saw him wearing the skin of the Republican Party. Or you were a hardcore Trumper, and then you liked that he was saying fuck you to it all,
Right.
which is different. But 70 million people are not MAGA people, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that ultimately, I think we just have to keep track of what Biden's going to do, and that's what we're going to get into now on the podcast. So yeah. Anyway, Sean, good stuff. We'll talk to you. I'll have Ban on here. I'll have Zan on here. Here's another thing I want to talk about before we get into talking about Biden's COVID plan, because that's what we're going to talk about today. Erin is going to give us a special report, I believe.
Oh yeah, I've got one prepared, Dan.
Okay, so I just want to say something. I had Ross Grimaldi on this podcast as a Trump supporter. Okay,
Remember that?
you can go back like a month or 6 weeks ago, something like that. And he says he's going to vote for Trump. We had some good conversations. I followed up with him, I think, after one of the debates on here. We spoke, and he and I, we actually message back and forth sometimes. It's really interesting because this is a guy who I can have conversations with him that are really civil, but if you see this guy's Facebook, and I'll call, and we can talk about it if he hears this, I'm happy to talk to him. If you hear his Facebook thread, his Facebook post, he's honestly like a conspiracy theorist.
Going into that territory.
He's getting into that territory where he posts literally. He posted something the other day, and I called him out for it, that had a fact check on it from Facebook, and it had literally a photoshopped newspaper that said like Gore declares victory.
Oh,
or
I
something.
saw that. It was fake.
And then I said, hey, this was fact check. He goes, yeah, just the picture, but the other stuff, this guy. I was shocked because you could see my conversation with him, and he seems like a dude you can speak to and blah, blah, blah. But, like, he is full on. He's full in. I saw today he posted his Parler account, which is he posted, like, here's my Parler account.
It's the Twitter clone for conservatives.
Right. So, it's a new Twitter where you can just say whatever the fuck you want.
They don't fact check. They don't censor. They don't fact check. There are community guidelines on Parler, so it won't, it probably will, but there are guidelines against, sharing criminal stuff, but give it time. And they are collecting IP addresses and doing everything that every other site does. So see how long that lasts.
Well, we'll see, whatever. But honestly, I think it's I think it's gonna last. I think it's gonna last, and it's gonna be I don't know anything about it.
It's like the Fox News of social media now.
Yeah, that's why I think it'll have its base. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just like dangerous though, because then once you go too far down the whole conspiracy thing, it's just like 4chan, 8chan, all those things. Like eventually something shady happens and things get cracked down. I'm sure the feds are already well embedded into Parler.
Right. Well, we can't stop free speech, but in my mind, we have to be really protective of free speech, but also we have, it doesn't mean the feds can't be monitoring what you're saying and shut down plans like to kidnap Governor Whitmer,
Exactly.
But But yeah, like, I just want to say, like, I think it's mind-boggling the conversation I had with this guy, which seemed pretty civil. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
look, he said some stuff that I didn't agree with and blah 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 and that, but it wasn't hostile. It was this. But then these posts are really extreme. Really extreme conspiracy stuff in my mind.
Yeah.
And so just to show you like how some people said to me, you're like, why do you even have these people on? Because you can't get through to them. And you know what? You might be right.
I think they're right. I think
I
that is
think
100% right.
I think people see what they want to see. I had this conversation with him, a Trump supporter, explaining like why the stuff he does bothers me so much. And then he went to one of his rallies, where and it's like, I'm like, hey, wear a mask. I just wrote him a message. He said, I'm going to the rally today. I was like, just wear a mask. He's like, of course I will wear a mask. But I was like, I mean, it's a super spreader event, man. Like,
Yeah,
why
I
put
know.
yourself? Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. It's just a side thought. I really it's kind of just shocking to me. Anyway, I'm all Here's the last thing. Here's another thing I want to say.
Uh-huh.
So while while the Trumpers seem to be deep in the conspiracy bed right now, there's one conspiracy that I would believe that none of these guys are even talking about, which is yesterday, Pfizer announces that they have a 90% effective vaccine, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And they announced that the Monday after the Saturday election results were announced.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that's the day they discovered it? You're like, why are these conspiracy guys not even that smart? Like, that's like, wouldn't that be like the first thing you'd bring up? I think, by the way, I don't even think that's conspiracy. I would, you could see Pfizer is not part of Project Warp Speed. They're not part of Trump's plan. And likely there's a good chance they wanted him out. And they're like, let's announce this after this election.
Yeah.
Because if they announced that before, there's a good chance. If they said the vaccine was there, that's a great talking point for Trump.
100%. I mean, Mike brought this up to me yesterday because I think he heard that there were conspiracy theorists saying prior to the election, saying like, wow, just wait and see. After the election, they're going to announce a vaccine.
Well, Trump said that. Trump said the vaccine, watch the vaccine. He says, oh, actually, no, Trump said that COVID's going to disappear.
Right, Monsieur. That's different than a vaccine. The virus going away. But I think, 100% it makes sense. The fact that they're not a part of Trump's thing, why would they not wait and see how the election shakes out before making this information public? Well played on Pfizer's part.
I actually don't know. I mean, I have no proof of any of this, but it seems crazy. And that's another thing when you start watching the news and they're all like, oh, well, like no one is at all being like, hey, guys, isn't this timing crazy?
I think it's
and it came out on a Monday?
Right.
You think it's coincidental on a
Well,
Monday?
and it's at 90% efficacy. So like we don't know like where this thing has probably been inching along for a long time. Like Fauci said on CNN yesterday, like or it's blown past the 50% that they were aiming for. So this has obviously been like in the hopper for a while. But
yeah, and by the way, check out our episode like I don't know, 6 episodes ago or something, where we spoke about vaccines. Where I go, what the F is a vaccine? And you'll understand what when they say 90% effective, what that exactly means. I didn't know what the fuck they're talking about. Because you're like, if it's 90%, does that mean I'm going to die? Blah, blah, blah.
No.
But, no.
To recap, 90% is really great.
Crazy. Because some effective vaccines that we use are like 60%.
Exactly.
So like 90 means like as a matter of fact, we said that the most measles vaccine is 97%, and that's essentially a cure.
That's the highest of all. Yeah.
I mean, not a cure; it's a full prevention. If the population takes it. Okay. Anyway, Erin, I think it's time for your special report about vaccines. How do you do it?
Oh, on vaccines today?
No, on the.
I'm talking COVID today, baby.
Okay, Erin, let's get into it. What is your special report?
Dan.
Erin.
Today I'm coming to you with a very special 2-part report on Biden's response to the COVID-19 pandemic as it stands right now.
Okay.
So on Monday, which was yesterday, Joe Biden announced his COVID-19. Joe Biden. I don't know. I don't remember the guy's name. It says it like that on CNN, but Joe Biden. So Joe Biden has announced his COVID-19 advisory board. This is a team of 13 individuals, all doctors or former government officials, public health officials, people who actually know what the fuck they're talking about. Okay. Right. So the team of 13 is co-chaired by Dr. Vivek Murthy, who he served as Surgeon General under Barack Obama and resigned in 2017 at the request of the Trump administration. He, while he was still working with Trump, he called gun violence a threat to public health. And that was what led to opposition from Republican senators, and he was edged out then. Also co-chairing, we have Dr. David Kessler, who served as FDA commissioner under George Bush I and Bill Clinton, and Dr. Marcella Nunez-Smith, who's an associate professor at Yale, and her research focuses on promoting health and healthcare equity for marginalized populations. So those are the three folks at the top of the squad. Other members include Dr. Rick Bright, who is an immunologist and virologist who, he oversaw the government's purchase of vaccines before he was dismissed by Trump in April when he filed an extensive whistleblower complaint saying that his early warnings about COVID were ignored by the administration, and his caution about hydroxychloroquine led to his removal from his position. Okay, so they said no.
You know what's so funny? Like, if like as time gets away, like, and you think back to Trump, it's gonna feel not even real. Like, it's gonna feel like this weird fever dream, where remember he's just like, "I'm taking it." Really? He goes like, "Yeah, I'm taking it."
Yeah.
Like, why are you taking hydroxychloroquine, man? What?
It's for lupus, bro.
This guy was so stubborn. I mean, we talking about it in past tense. Unfortunately, he's still around, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For now.
All right, keep going.
All right, so next up we have Dr. Zeke Emanuel, who I've actually met before.
Really?
Yeah, I've met Dr. Emanuel. That's the RGN exclusive.
Wow.
He was a health advisor.
It's a non-exclusive. You've told someone else that. Have you ever told anyone else in the past? Or did anyone witness
Well, I mean, I worked for a dean of a health school, and he came to my office, so there were others present when we met. It wasn't a behind closed doors.
It's a non-exclusive. Yeah. But this podcast, in effort to be as non-pretentious as possible, we none of our everything is non-exclusive,
except for the P story.
The P story is
that was exclusive.
But I will say I did tell my wife that story, so.
Oh, okay. I'm surprised. So Zeke Emanuel, he is Hollywood super agent Ari Emanuel's brother, mayor of Chicago Rahm Emanuel's brother.
Wow, these Emanuels are some of the most impressive people on the planet. I know. There's another Emanuel who's that good of a doctor that he's on this very limited task force. That's crazy.
So Zeke was a health advisor to Obama, and he was an architect of the Affordable Care Act, and he's a vice provost and professor at Penn. So that was when I met him a couple times when he came through. So next we have Dr. Luciana Borrio. She's a senior fellow for global health at the Council on Foreign Relations. She served in the FDA in 2008 and helped develop the U.S. response to H1N1, Ebola, and Zika virus.
Are you sure? Because my president told me that H1N1 was a disaster.
Your president? Lame duck president?
Yeah.
It was a disaster. No, remember Zika virus?
I called Trump a lame duck even before he was an actual lame duck. He looks like a lame duck. Okay.
Oof, that hair. Dr. Atul Gawande, he is a surgeon and Harvard professor, a recipient of a MacArthur Genius Grant in 2006.
Oh, this is honestly like
this is a squad.
To my ears.
This is a squad.
Just Oh my God! None of these guys are radiologists with no immunology experience, like
Nope.
Dr. Scott Atlas. I mean, look at these guys are real doctors.
I know.
This is
There's
so
an
amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
Dr. Celine Gounder, she is a faculty at the NYU School of Medicine and a practicing HIV and infectious disease specialist, and a podcast host of the podcast Epidemic on COVID-19.
Oh,
Yeah, we got a podcaster on the squad.
check it out.
Dr. Julie Morita, she is a pediatrician and executive vice president for the U.S.'s largest philanthropic organization dedicated solely to health, and previously worked at Chicago Department of Public Health.
Ooh.
Michael Osterholm.
I'm noticing these next two on this list here are both not doctors. What is that
yes. Well, they do have some credentials. Osterholm is an infectious disease expert that warned the U.S. would be ill prepared for a pandemic, wrote a book about it. Lois Pace is executive director and president of the Global Health Council. Dr. Robert Rodriguez, not to be confused with director Robert Rodriguez.
But it does say DR.
Yeah.
It's DR.
Different guy, not from Dusk Till Dawn Robert Rodriguez. This guy is a professor of emergency medicine.
The next doctor, it says Dr. Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. Well, he's on board just to make the marketing materials.
Oh, man.
And the last guy is Dr. Eric Goosley, an infectious disease expert who held prominent health positions with Clinton and Obama, specifically related to AIDS.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have a 13-person powerhouse team of actual doctors.
This guy, field. Michael Osterholm, he wrote a book. Is he at all? What's his credentials? Who's the guy who wrote Contagion?
Steven Soderbergh?
No, he's the director. Scott Burns. Okay, I know this guy does a lot of work with on pandemics because he's
no doubt.
If you see the movie Contagion, it's so accurate.
Yeah.
That they literally have him on panels like this. Give scientific. So I was curious if he's one of those. If he
that guy's not on the team, but Michael Osterholm, he's an epidemiologist. And he is a doctor, excuse me. He has a PhD from University of Minnesota, and he's a director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota. So, pardon me, Dr. Osterholm.
Who's going to be looking into shining a light directly into the body? Is there anyone?
Who's the light guy?
We have a light guy. We got
we have a Clorox, Mr. Clorox, Dr. Clorox is joining the panel.
Yeah, we got Tino. He's from Con Edison. he's gonna be shining.
This guy shines the brightest lights.
This guy's got the brightest lights. We got Commissioner Gordon. Commissioner Gordon, he has the bat signal, which is one of the brightest lights.
One of the brightest lights. It's beautiful.
We're gonna shine the bat signal into people's skin and kill the virus, right?
Kill the virus.
We're
looking into it. I'm sure that this team will continue looking into those alternative therapies.
Did you see Chappelle host SNL?
I did.
His monologue was so funny. He was saying that the president is just winging treatments, yours in front of the. You're like, that is so true. That is what he was doing.
How about coming up with it? He's gonna discover the cure live during a press conference. Well, anyway, so far, Biden has said, hey, he's emphasized wearing a mask, obviously, and the depoliticization of following public health recommendations like social distancing. You guys, let's just do this. The task force, they've already briefed the president and vice president-elect. And they also have on their website, on the Biden-Harris website, laid out a 7-point plan for dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. Do you want to hear those 7 points, Dan?
Yes, I have them here as well, but you go through them.
Let's run through them real quick. Number 1, fix testing and ensure access for all Americans to convenient, free, accurate, reliable testing, which we talked about on this show before. Number 2, fix PPE problems and fully use the Defense Production Act to solve the problem and manufacture those things in America. Number
Right.
3, provide clear, consistent, and evidence-based guidance and resources for the public. Number 4, plan for effective, equitable distribution of treatments and vaccines. Number 5,
Right.
protect older Americans and others at high risk. Number 6, rebuild and expand defenses that Trump has dismantled to predict, and mitigate pandemic threats, including those coming from China. And number 7, implement mask mandates nationwide by working with governors and mayors.
Okay, so what does a mask mandate mean? When you mandate somebody, does that mean you can get a ticket?
I think that we have a mask mandate, don't we, in California?
Right, but what's this is what I don't understand. Like, because yeah, like I do think about this thing where I'm like, I'm a mask guy, but like, imagine a cop gave me a ticket for not wearing a mask. I'd be so pissed off, you know?
I would be, but devil's advocate, I would be like, you should have worn the mask. You deserve a ticket.
Right, but what does a mandate mean?
That's
Like,
a good question.
I don't know. Like, when they say a mask mandate, that just means like tell you. I saw Utah put one in finally. Now they just put a mask mandate in. By the way, now.
Thanks, Utah.
I don't know. I guess it's crazy because it's like I wish that we didn't need to have mandates and stuff because it's like there's this bullshit argument where you're like people are like anti-mandates, and I'm kind of like, I get it. Like, I hate getting tickets. This is like my like libertarian side where I'm like imagine you're like, you know, you're like imagine you got a ticket for not wearing a helmet, like riding a bike without a helmet. You're like, I'm a fucking adult, man. Like, if I wanted to be an idiot in that way, like, get off my back. But at the same time, like, dude, it's a bummer that we even need this stuff to be like punishable. But I don't even know if it is. But like,
I don't think
can't
there's
we just all agree to just
fines or
wear the
anything.
masks? It's just like, why we can't, is it actually possible to ever get back on that same page where we're all like, well, we'll see, because you know Biden's putting that message out there, but I don't think so. I think Trump's done such a disservice to this country in terms of the masks that half of this country, and especially now that they're like butthurt from losing, you know, they're gonna go even deeper. I was watching The Circus on Showtime, which is it's a show that's like, it's exactly what you expect it to be. It's like following the whole political campaign around the country. It's kind of like pretty raw, and it's Showtime. There's like cursing, and they show you like really unfiltered shit, and it's like the hosts of the show are like barely present because it's just about kind of showing you. It almost just feels like a montage of clips, you know?
Right.
And wait, what was my point? What was I just talking about?
Masks. The circus.
Oh, and they were showing election night results. Like, it was I watched the last episode. I haven't watched the whole series, and you saw like they were showing like Iowa and like some red state and a bunch of like MAGA people, all just like in a closed bar, sitting right next to each other. Obese people, no masks, elderly people. They're watching the board, just, you know, keep America great again, going nuts, and you're like,
right.
There's no way those people are ever putting on a mask ever. There's just no way.
I know.
Never.
I know. I mean, it's hard because, like, you think, well, okay, now we have this COVID-19 task force that's made up of actual doctors with science you can trust. But the problem is that those people that you're talking about don't trust science. Maybe science doesn't know. You know, like, that's...
Well, they don't really editorialize on this show, so it's what's kind of cool about it is because like they were showing like Trump's like like boat rallies they were having, right? And like I was kind of watching it post election, so I was less emotional, like, because it was like, you know, Biden won, and I'm like just calming down a little bit, and you're like, man, these boat rallies look like a fucking blast. There's like 20,000 boats, Erin. 20,000 boats, okay? And like,
that's a lot of boats.
And you're talking like babes in like American flag bikinis drinking Coors Lights, and you're like, if you saw this in just a pure vacuum, you're like, America, this America is like my America. You know what I mean?
This America's lit. Like, it's like Lake Havasu on spring break out here.
It was like I was like, I want to be part of this America too. Like, it's a bummer.
Right.
Can't we just agree? Like, I want to like hang out with the American flag babes with
I
holding
want to hang out
guns
with
and
the babes.
on boats. You know what I mean? That
I
looks like a
know.
blast. I like to drink. I like to shoot guns. I mean, I don't actually. I actually hate shooting guns, but I like the visual of a gun. They look cool.
Yeah,
I like gun movies. You know?
like gun movies. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Seeing someone else shoot a gun is pretty rad. Well, Dan, I think that there's just one fundamental difference between you and the rest of the boat people, and unfortunately, I don't think you're going to be able to go to a boat rally anytime soon.
Do you think any of these blonde babes in American flag bikinis want to talk to a 5'8" Jew from Long Island?
Well, Doug Emhoff has given you a little bit of cachet, Dan.
That is
So,
true. The
so
first dude.
don't discount yourself.
You texted me
Yeah,
something. What did you text me
I
about
texted Dan a
Kamala's
tweet.
husband? It was pretty
Yeah,
funny.
I sent Dan a tweet that I saw online that made me think of him. It said, "Schlubby Jewish husbands of much more impressive and attractive women. This is our moment."
That's right.
And then another guy said, "I love the Jewish guys on here. Like, we got second gentlemen. This is enough for us."
It's on every Jew I've spoken to is proud to have the second husband, which
Fuck
is
yeah.
which is kind of a non-position. Like, have you ever heard what's like Mike Pence's what did she do? Like,
I
nothing.
don't know.
It's a
I don't
even
know.
when Jill Biden was the second lady, you didn't know anything she did. Like, now she's first lady, which is
Yeah.
different, you know. But now we just have a Jewish guy in there. We're like,
That's
yeah,
perfect for
fuck
Doug.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
Well,
did.
that's the level that you really want. No responsibility. Your wife is amazing and doing great things.
She's just dancing in chucks. It's beautiful.
Totally.
Um,
So, Dan, don't those big American flag bikini babes, give them
yeah,
like a couple years.
to
You
come
guys are going
around.
to be hot ticket items soon.
Oh
I
man,
have one. I'm holding on
Erin,
to
I'm
mine
talking
with
about
both
like these
hands.
gorgeous drone shots of 20,000 boats and like everybody's fucking part. I don't even think they know what Trump. They just think Trump's like, and Rambo flags of Trump and like.
Hey, Trump's having this killer boat rally. How could you not vote for him?
I was like, I just want to hang out there, but like no one's wearing masks and some of the boats are sinking. There's a lot of
Yeah,
problems
they
there.
like panned away from the boats that are sinking to the bottom.
All right. Well, just to follow up,
Mm-hmm.
a couple things you said. I had a
Mm-hmm.
couple more, just like things that I thought were interesting.
Tidbits.
Yeah, just these are little tidbits, but you basically said this already. But Biden's promising to invest 25 billion more to make and distribute vaccines to everyone in the U.S. Um, and they're promising that drugs will be affordable and there'll be no politics involved in whether a vaccine is approved or not. So that's a difference because they were saying that Trump was putting pressure to just push the vaccine due to the
Right.
election. Now watch his true character. He's not going to give two shits. He's already not working anymore, so he's not getting briefed on. First off, he's not clearing. He's not allowing transition happen. So literally, there's funds being blocked. There's literally like this woman. They showed a picture of her who has to
Yes, the
sign off on
blonde
the
woman.
transition. Right.
Mm-hmm.
She has to sign off on the transition, but also he's not being briefed right now. And Mitch McConnell's taking over the whole stimulus talks because he's not even getting involved. Doesn't care at all. His true
No.
colors are. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know how you didn't see him before, but anyway. Okay. Another thing is they want to double the amount of drive-through testing.
Yeah.
And which I saw, so I was like, oh, that's great. And he's just promising regular, reliable, and free testing. The thing that we need to go towards, which I have faith Biden will try to develop, is we need to be able to test at home. I all this stuff is all stuff. If you look in Asian countries, they're doing all this stuff already.
Oh, they have the at-home testing.
I don't know if they have at-home testing, but they have like very easy drive-through sites and
Right.
more rapid testing than we have. And yeah, what was the last thing I want to say? And he's also going to rejoin the WHO, the World Health Organization. So we'll be part of, we're going to be part of the world again.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
We took a
So
little couple months off from the WHO, but we're
right.
back.
And during Trump administration, Predict, which is the pathogen tracking program that looks for future disease threats, such as the coronavirus, it ended, and Biden is going to relaunch it, which was an Obama thing. So, he's this guy's hitting the ground running.
Yeah, he
Uh,
was being briefed on COVID before the election was even called. Biden and Harris were. So,
Also, I want to say one other thing about Biden that I think was amazing in the circus documentary, this circus show. They showed a woman who I forget her name. I'm such an idiot. I've seen her on CNN a lot of times. She's now filling in her husband's seat in the maybe the Congress. I
oh, I
forget.
know who
You
you're
know what I'm talking
talking
about? The
about. Yeah,
blonde
I know who you're
woman.
talking about. Mm-hmm.
Her husband was seemed to be significantly older than she is.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he passed away, she took his seat.
Right.
When he found out, okay, this is the story she told. She said to give the character of Joe Biden. She told the story. She's like, when he found out, and by the way, another thing I want to say, watch clips of Lindsey Graham, who now talks shit about Joe Biden. Watch clips of Lindsey Graham saying that Joe Biden is the kindest man he knows. Literally, look that up. It exists. Okay? And also, and that doesn't mean there's flaws with Joe Biden's politics, but as a
Mm-hmm.
human being, he seems to be kind of undeniable as a good soul,
He's a good man.
right?
Yes.
And so this woman, her husband was sick, had cancer, was in Congress, let's say. I apologize for not knowing the specifics, but she's telling the story. She's like, Joe Biden and him knew each other for a long time. He was very quiet about his illness. Joe Biden had caught wind that he was in the last days of his life. Joe Biden showed up to the hospital, okay, talked to him and said, it's not your time yet. And then he lived 4 years more. And this guy was like,
Wow.
saying this is the kind of guy he was. He showed up
Wow.
unannounced. Okay? I believe he was the vice president at the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay?
Wow. Hmm.
So anyway, I'm just
He's a good
saying,
man.
look, I'm just saying, there's some decency to Joe Biden that is just you can say his politics, but as a human, it's kind of undeniable.
Yeah, like Trump's own brother died not that long ago, and there wasn't really a whole lot said.
Also, where's the bar? The bar is like, hey,
Right.
maybe just put it into perspective. Like, Joe Biden might be a flawed guy in this way, that way, and we can go through it. And maybe he should have not let his son take this job, and maybe blah blah blah. But like, he is a better guy than I am, which
Yeah, no shit.
like, at least at
I
this point in my
know.
life, I have I have acts of kindness, right,
Yeah,
and selflessness to take from him. So that's where we're kind of at right now, right? It's
I
like that's the
know.
bar. Maybe okay. Anyway, all right. So the last thing I want to talk about, we talked a bunch about the Joe Biden's plan. I feel really confident about it so far. We'll see. We'll track it as we go. But look, can you say anything better than the guy he celebrated for? I don't know, one day, and then is all immediately he made it. He Saturday won the election. Sunday we didn't hear from him. No, Sunday he went to church, I believe, and then
Mm-hmm.
Monday announced a full task force. So that means on Sunday he was putting that together, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that's the day God takes rest. Joe Biden does not take rest
Mm-mm,
because he's not a
mm-mm.
god; he's a man.
Nope.
Um, okay, last thing I want to talk about because we'd be like silly to ignore this is this election is I guess not over. Um, Donald Trump is pushing back as far as he can. He's saying there's a lot of voter fraud. So all I want to look into is like, is there any claims to his voter fraud? Now let's just go from the RGN gut, from the hip. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
he had no problem accepting the results last time. He said it was rigged because he thought he was about to lose. He did that. It's rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged. Then he won. Then he lost a popular vote. Said that popular vote was flawed. Okay.
Right.
Then he told us he was going to lose this time. Like, he also had seemed to be accepting states. He's not he's not disputing the votes in states he won, right?
Mm-hmm.
Only in the states he lost. Okay. Um. Yeah. Then he told everybody, don't vote by mail, and then the mail-in votes, which Biden was pushing, went in his favor. So it's kind of logical, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how you could see how this makes any sense. So you're like, okay, let's see the instances of. So here are the lawsuits because as of Monday they said Giuliani said we're going to be putting together all these. He got to get the Four Seasons,
Four Seasons
total
Total
landscaping,
Landscaping.
total
Mm-hmm.
landscaping, Lawn and Order.
Yeah.
Um,
It's if you're looking for it, it's between the dildo store and the crematorium on State Road in Northeast Philly.
I mean, can you believe that? And by the way, just fun fact: if you see the pictures of that, um, right, Giuliani, who's essentially a criminal, but
He's a
right behind
ghoul.
him, Bernie Kerik. Google him. Who's the
Oh
police commissioner
yeah.
of New York? Google him. Google this guy. He's on Fox News all the time. Google him. Tell me if you dig this guy's record. Okay, he literally went to prison.
Spoiler alert.
He's the
He's a
head of the.
criminal.
He was the police. New York police commissioner of New York City, and then went to prison. Okay. Okay. Here, I just want to say, like, because it's confusing, they're not like going into the details. Here are the lawsuits they've filed. Okay.
Okay.
As of Monday. Okay, in Pennsylvania, um, uh, 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 okay, here, wait, what are they calling this? Okay, he said, in Pennsylvania, extended deadlines and problems with the observers. Okay, and here I'm just trying to find the quick summary here. Okay, the Trump campaign and many Republicans have seized on the time it has taken for officials to count ballots as a sign of something fraudulent happening, but the lawsuits they filed have not borne the narrative out. This is according to NPR, by the way. Thus far, the campaign has scored a few wins in court, but none that will have an effect on the results. A state court and separately U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the officials must segregate some ballots in case deadlines were extended. It's unclear how many ballots will be at this point, but experts extremely skeptical it will be anywhere close to overturn Biden's 45,000. And separately, a federal judge ruled that election observers could stand slightly closer to election officials than they were previously allowed to, but a request to stop vote counting over the issue was dismissed. And Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro told NPR that despite Trump's rhetoric about big legal wins in the state, the lawsuits thus far have yielded no material change to election processes. I'm not going to get into rhetorical battle with the president, but it's hardly a big win. It has no effect on the outcome of this election. Okay, so nothing going on in Pennsylvania has any weight so far.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the litigation is ongoing, and they said that there's going to be some fresh lawsuits coming in, is what they're saying. They're saying unfair and unequal treatment of Republicans in the state's election. Okay. By the way, fun fact: check out my friend Anthony Tamanik. He used to host the President Show on Comedy Central. Follow his Instagram. I don't know what his Instagram is, but I think it's the Tony. I don't know. I'll look it up. But he's been calling the he's been calling the Trump fraud hotline.
Oh,
as because Donald Trump, and people think he's the president, and he called as Ronald Reagan. And it's really funny. He's calling in fraud, and he's like, he's Trump pitching. He's pitching frauds that we can make up. That they can make up. It's so funny. Check it out. He has Shady Fatties, his Twitch channel. If you want to check it out.
Okay. I've seen people sharing screen grabs of their reports to the Trump fraud website. Like there's a form you can fill out using like Regina George and the Burn Book and like other fun scenarios from movies.
That's really funny. I saw, did you see Neil Cavuto cut away from Kayleigh McEnany?
Yes.
So Neil Cavuto is a big Fox News guy, and he cut away from Kayleigh McEnany. Did a press conference, and he was just like, "There's no proof for anything she's saying here, so we're gonna cut away. If they have proof, we'll report it. But there's nothing to point here." God, what's up with Kayleigh McEnany? Like someone like her, for example. I know there's a lot of versions of her. What do you just have no scruple, like no moral, no integrity
whatsoever?
What is that? What's your guiding principle? Is it just
I want to work in the White House? I mean, she wants to be a Fox News anchor, right? That's kind of seems like where she's headed.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, I'll go down with this ship and I'll just go work at Fox News. No problem.
Well, it seems like if you look at a guy like Bernie Kerik or whatever, who's now like a Fox News contributor, literally Mark Furman's and not a Fox News contributor, like it seems like, I think it's really important you guys, like we have to like kind of have memories because this stuff gets to, like, I don't even understand how like Chris Christie like gets jobs like no problem, like all these people, like there seems to be no consequence for what they do. They just get jobs. Even Brian Williams, I'll go on the other side of it. Brian Williams is on MSNBC, right?
I mean, granted, he has been relegated to the late PM slot from like primetime news.
Yeah,
So
and he's on
he's had to pay the
MSNBC when he
fiddler.
used to be on NBC, right?
Yeah, like prime time.
Right. But he still gets back on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like there
he's
seems
still
to be
working.
no consequences for these people. You
I
know?
know.
Okay, Michigan, unfounded claims of lack of transparency seems to be what it is. Uh, 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 um, so I'm just want to find the. I don't want to read this whole thing, but it says on this factual record, I have no basis to find that there's a. This is from the judge. Find that there's a substantial likelihood of success on the merits as it relates to this defendant, nor am I convinced that there's a legal duty on behalf of anyone who is properly before this court to manage this issue. In denying separate requests to stop the counting, so they're trying to stop the count there. So they're saying unfounded claims of lack of transparency. Georgia, they said there's no evidence of late ballots counted. Okay, so that's what they're trying to say, that there was late ballots coming in. And Nevada rejected requests to stop machine verification processing of mail ballots. So they were trying to stop that. Irregularities have plagued the election. Yeah, I mean, this stuff, honestly, it's not even worth reading. There's
No,
no
it's
specific examples of any of this shit.
yeah.
As a matter of fact,
That
Fox News the other night had on poll watchers, just on
yeah.
Hannity, poll watcher. And by
Oh,
the way,
okay.
Ross Cremoldi, Trump supporter, retweeted this guy. And this guy was saying, like, oh, I can't see what they're doing. But, like, a poll watcher is very different than the I mean, Erin, you work the polls, right? There's a Democratic you weren't at poll counting. You were at the actual
I was at the
poll.
actual poll.
But the polls, like there's someone not there's someone from the Trump campaign and the Biden campaign
Right.
overseeing the counts, and there's also video cameras. Like
Yeah, I
all
mean
of
there
this is,
was being live streamed on the internet in many states.
if you watch Fox News, you have to hold these guys accountable. I mean, like if you watch Fox News, sometimes like I'll watch CNN or I'll watch MSNBC and I go a little bit like, okay, that's a little heavy-handed, right?
Mhm.
You're like, I get it. You're putting a little too much editorial here. There's too much of your feelings, okay?
Right.
You
Right.
know what I mean? And like also it's like calling somebody a racist. I'm not even sure that's the job of I'm not even sure you're like that's reporting. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
like I kind of see that point, and not to mention I most of the time do agree with them, but I'm like
Mhm.
sometimes I'm like I don't know if this is but like Fox News, they go on there and they show this poll watcher guy, let him just speak unedited, give him a full platform. This guy's some idiot. And then they don't even say like, just for the record, there's actually somebody overseeing it. There's cameras. Like they don't do any of that. So they're like just sowing all this doubt consciously. Like that's the
Right.
difference, you know?
Yeah, because they're not saying like, okay, this guy is a guy who was attempting to watch the polls, not the officially appointed Republican representative watching the vote count.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And so I just want to say, um, Bill Maher made this point. And it's a really good point, and you can see this is that a lot of these governors and it's different state by state. State legislators have their own processes about like Secretary of States, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
There a lot of these people are Republicans or saying the count is legit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, making it partisan. I mean, this whole Trump thing, it's so sloppy. It's so
It's so
transparent.
sloppy. Well, and people are jumping ship left and right, right? Because they want to distance themselves from this, from the Titanic when it goes down. Like, they don't want any part of it because there's nothing, it doesn't hold any water.
Right, but at the same time, so many people are not saying anything. Very limited
Yeah.
amount of Republicans have congratulated or acknowledged uh, Biden's win. The only ones who have called him are George W. Bush, who somehow is a good guy now, which is just insane.
Right. Right.
Which is, you want to see how low the bar is. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he was awful. Started a
Yeah.
war that we're still in over false information. You know,
Yeah. I
I don't know
know.
how that guy looks in the mirror, let alone paints. And then, but at the same time, his moral compass is so much more centered than the modern
Yeah.
Republican Party. Literally, the Department of Justice Bill Barr is literally like he's like changing the law so you can look into voter fraud. So they're just like they're looking for it, as opposed to they found it this evidence and
Yeah.
now they're
Yeah.
digging into it.
They said it happened and now they're trying to find it.
Right, they're going backwards. Anyway, so that's what I'm saying. And then Mitch McConnell got on the Senate floor yesterday and said, like, he has his right to do it, which is true. You have the right to demand a recount and blah, blah, blah. But, like, guys, you didn't do this last time. The Daily Show did a whole clip, a whole montage. It's pretty amazing of everyone telling Hillary to accept the results.
Right.
And
Right.
had no
Right.
problem that time, So I don't know. They keep saying illegal ballots,
I mean, it's just like I don't understand because the Republican Senate candidates, like everyone was on the same ballot. You know what I mean? Like Trump was on the same ballot as all of
Yeah.
his Republican cronies who seemed to do just fine in the election. So
Yeah. We'll see if
I
this
don't. There's no
Republican
logic.
Party. We'll see if this Republican Party has the balls to stand up to Trump even when he's out of office, because
No
he
shit.
has clearly a fan base. He's clearly going to want to run again in 2024. They all don't have the confidence that they can beat him if he runs in the primaries because he's already so popular.
Right.
They're going to have to band together against him, and we'll see what they do. I don't know. This is weird times. But anyway, Erin, I feel like we did enough work here today.
We've done more than enough.
We've done more than enough. We're exhausted, frankly. We're exhausted. And all we ask from you guys on this podcast is a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast platform you use. Apple Podcasts is the best. And tell one friend. That's it.
Just
tell
one.
one friend about this show, about RGN.
Mhm.
I'm in the process of changing the art for the show, so it'll say RGN. It'll say the Regular Guy News.
Can't wait to see the logo.
Yeah, we'll get that. Yeah, everybody. I never do this, but follow me on Instagram at Dan Black Attack. I don't know why I don't plug my socials more, but follow me on Instagram at Dan Black Attack. If you listen to this podcast, please follow. I post fun clips and show you to the video. And Erin, anything else you'd like to add?
Follow me at Erin B. Finnerty on Instagram.
Follow Erin B. Finnerty.
Yeah.
And everybody, thanks for listening. And as I always say, stay regular. Don't beat yourself during tests. Bye-bye.